Alrighty. Hello, chat. Please hit me up if you have any questions. I'm going to start working on the landing page for this. I'm trying to come up with some names, which is going to be tons of fun because I'm terrible at naming things. Today's topic is covering front-end engineering. If you have questions about jobs or getting hired or hiring people, any of that stuff is all on the table. Um, Okay, is that a little better? Can someone in chat let me know if you can hear? Can someone in chat let me know if you can? Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so what knowledge should someone wanting a front-end or full-stack internship know? I mean, I would definitely recommend having a pretty good grasp of JavaScript. There are 1,000 answers to this question, which is always tons of fun. Yeah, so understand a pretty good amount about JavaScript. My kind of 5 things, and I'll eventually get these into talk format at some point, but or blog format. But there are, I think, 5 things that you kind of need to know about JavaScript, and they are essentially. Here, actually, I think I actually started writing a blog about this. Let's see if we can pull that up real quick, so that I don't tell you wrong. Oh well, none of it's on there. Yeah. So the things are basically, understand what functions are, functions and closures. Understand the this keyword, which can be kind of a gotcha kind of thing. Um, Understand functional programming a little bit in JavaScript. At least have some idea of the like map, reduce, filter functions. Um, but for an internship, especially, the company that you're applying to should definitely be there to kind of teach you. There's kind of a trend right now in tech, unfortunately, of companies hiring and then like expecting people to know everything, to basically be full fledged engineers, which is kind of ridiculous to me because an internship is about learning. It's about going in and learning about the company and maybe helping to build some stuff. But even if you never build anything in an internship, they're definitely more about preparing people for the workforce. And the idea being that if you prepare someone well for the workforce, especially to work with the technologies that you work with, when you want to hire them, they're going to be interested in coming back and interested in working on the stuff that you made them interested in working on. So as far as things you should know, have a pretty good idea of JavaScript, HTML, CSS, especially for the front end. As far as the full stack thing goes, that's a even crazier question because there are 1,000 different full stack stacks out there. In that term, or in that world, a big important thing is just understanding the interoperability of the front end and the back end, which can sometimes be just an API server. It could be a full-fledged application. You can write React that is rendered by Rails and Ruby. It's a lot. But a lot of that is stuff that you'll learn on the job, and that any good internship should know that you'll learn on the job. So just be curious, be willing to learn things, and go from there. Does that help? If you have any specific questions, too, I can help you. If you have knowledge that you're interested in learning and don't think would be good, or whatever. Any other questions you have, feel free to ask. Alright, I think we're going to name this something related to do while or for in or for of. We'll go from there. I don't know. But I like those concepts. We'll just stick with do while for now. I didn't need to open File Explorer. Close some windows there real quick. Any other questions, chat? About hiring, getting hired. I'm actually currently in the process at my current company of working through some hiring stuff. We're building a tool to make hiring better. So I've been learning a lot about this. If you have questions about hiring engineers, anything like that. While I'm waiting for questions, we are building out the landing page for this site. I have just started. There is nothing here. This is the default glitch website. I'm going to go ahead and I'll leave this the same for now, but we've got some fonts here. I'm going to consider how are we going to use these, maybe. As far as kind of styles go, I really like the style of MDN. Things like dev2. Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. Glitch, those kinds of sites. I really like dev2 too. Kind of similar to like Bloomberg. Just this very almost blocky looking thing. So I think that's what we're going to try to replicate at least a little bit on here. So let's go ahead and start with a logo. I'm going to make this a text-based logo, mostly because I don't have design software on this computer. But let's go ahead. Ooh, let's find some colors real quick. I'm thinking, actually, I think the main color of the site is going to just be the default web blue, which is 0, 0, 0, man, if I can type there, 0, 0, 0, 0 FF. We'll go ahead and get oh, I'm in a React mindset right now. Using class name instead of class. Yeah, so something like that. Any questions, chat, about hiring or getting hired that I can answer while we're doing this? Is not a live stream landing page. I think another, if we don't start to get some questions here, I might just start talking a little bit about some of the things that I've learned recently about hiring and getting hired in JavaScript. I've been considering making this show a bit more of an interactive podcast style thing anyway, um, where we do some work in the background every now and then, pop in with some insights on whatever the day's topic is. If that makes sense for people. So one thing that I thought about doing, I've been getting some Twitter messages about getting hired, working with React, working with JavaScript, that kind of stuff. And so I thought I would maybe anonymously read some of these and some of the things that people are talking about. So I received this one a while ago. And so the question is essentially, as a junior software engineer that is about to graduate from college, what should someone do to get a front-end engineering internship? And Cedricium, is that how you say your name? I'm not sure. But this kind of will tie into what you asked earlier. And as I go talking about this stuff, please let me know if you have any questions. We can divert as much as we want. So yeah, this person says, I love working with JavaScript, open source, and have done many contributions, major ones being to Webpack, Reactive Search, and Yarn. Professionally speaking, front-end engineering is my game, and I've done a couple long internships. After graduating recently, they're looking to get full-time work. And there are two questions for me where essentially, there are kind of two approaches they think they could take. One would be joining programs like Outco or Interview Kickstart to sharpen their algorithms and data structure skills. And the other being to learning very in-depth patterns in like React and upcoming technologies like GraphQL to really sharpen the technical side of things. And they did mention that they have some experience already with React, React Native, Redux, Node.js, and some other things, and just that they want to maybe sharpen these skills. And they just asked, which of these two approaches are things that I think would be most useful. So I thought this was a very interesting question. Oh, and they also mention, this is important too, they also mentioned that they prefer to work for more product startups that have a bit younger of a cast of characters, and maybe not at bigger companies like Google, Facebook, or Amazon. And so my general advice for this was essentially, that it sounds like they already have some great experience. A lot of people don't have the opportunity to get that kind of experience, especially in college, at especially like very traditional college educations don't really give necessarily experience in modern technologies. And so, having some of those skills already puts you in a pretty good place, but there are tons of skills out there that are really, really useful for front-end engineering and in engineering in general. So I recommended, that brushing up on interview skills is great, especially if you have time to do so. A lot of people don't have time to do that. And while a lot of startups have really started to shift away from whiteboard interviews, which is awesome, a lot still require them. So I'm going to cover that actually a little bit too for anybody listening from the other side looking for advice on hiring front-end engineers or anything like that. There's a lot of good info out there about not hiring from whiteboards. I'm going to look this up real quick. But there's a whole GitHub actually dedicated to hiring without whiteboards. And this is great. A lot of companies on this list, basically starting with this tweet from DHH, the guy who kind of built Ruby on Rails, and some other stuff with that is really, really good. Basically, the problem being that it's good to discuss real-world problems with a candidate, and you can still use whiteboards and things like that, but it's not as good to discuss random trivia, technical puzzles, things that aren't as helpful. And so this tweet, I would fail to write bubble sort on the whiteboard, right? Like, you don't spend a lot of time in your real job writing crazy algorithms just from memory. You have the opportunity to look those things up, to really work with all of the knowledge that other people have gathered. The only time that you're ever going to be writing something like that on a whiteboard may be like the end of the world kind of situation. And so if you are hiring and you're looking to get hired, look at companies on this list. Find ones that don't look for that kind of stuff. Take-home programming tasks are really good because they give the interviewee or the candidate the ability to really sit down and think about a problem and try to solve it. Use any of the resources that they normally would have while working for you. And if it looks like they have parts of their code that are copied from other websites and things like that, that's just how the job works. You copy code, you rework code to do what you need it to do. If I had to remember how to write a uniquing function for a JavaScript array every time I needed to get all of the unique things in an array, I would never remember that. And so sometimes it's good to just look those things up and know, and to be able to evaluate those things. As far as getting hired, that's another big recommendation that I would have is do learn how to evaluate code that you find on the internet. Learn what's good about it and what's bad. And if you're hiring, sometimes questions like that can be really useful. Given this code, what does it do? Or why is this not performant? Things like that. Instead of making people write performant code without any resources or anything like that, really focus on the understanding code and really working with the tools that they have normally. And so the other thing that I recommended to this person on Twitter was essentially just, watch the talks that you have time to watch. Not everybody has time for that kind of stuff, and it is a lot harder if you don't have some background in that stuff. So just it's very helpful to watch talks or read articles on JavaScript to keep up on things. One of my favorite newsletters, comes out weekly, is Ponyfoo. Highly recommend subscribing to this if you can. Some really, really great, they're weekly, some really great articles that come out once a week into your email inbox. I support them on Patreon. They're awesome. That was pretty much that question. Are there any questions from anyone in chat? Anybody have anything that they are thinking about as far as getting hired, working in front-end engineering? Any questions that anybody has? I'm going to go back to working on the page for a little bit now. also, chat, I'll mention, if you haven't already, subscribing to the YouTube channel, which I need to pull up here, will get you some... I'll be posting all of these videos online after I have the streams. I already have the last 3 up. So if you missed one or you want to check them out again, you can always come back. And if you could subscribe, I can then get a much better URL than this terrible UC whatever. I think it takes 50 subscribers. So if you like the show, if you want more, definitely subscribe because it'll help the show out. And if you have any thoughts on anything that you'd like to get from this, if you're looking for something else out of this, always feel free to hit me up on Twitter and let me know what you are thinking. It's not much, but I think this is really starting to come along. I might pick up a domain name for it for the site. Maybe we'll add some stuff at some point. One thing that would be good, I don't know if there's a Twitch API to get the latest. Twitch Live API. What I'd really like to do is have something that says, you know, like when we're live. And then maybe pops up like a box to show that. Alright, let's just go ahead and copy this for now. And drop that in here to see what we get. It's not bad. Let's go ahead and make this a modal real quick. Uh-oh. It's not good. Let's go ahead and reload those. Alright, someone just sent me a message that said they're not sure how to comment on a Twitch video, but they have a question. Yeah, so the question is, what if you have a take-home assignment and they want you to do it in a specific language? They go on to say, I did mine in a different language because I didn't know the language. Would it have been better to use code I found on the internet, or just say I don't know it? It is always better to be upfront. You know, you don't want to get into a position where you have an internship that you got into because you used resources from the internet but didn't really quite understand what I was saying. Unfortunately, or what they were saying. Unfortunately, sometimes companies are not perfect at their interviewing processes, and so people slip through both directions. Really good people sometimes slip through, or really good fits, I shouldn't say really good people, really good fits for the position that they're hiring for sometimes slip through and don't get picked, and then sometimes people who are not as prepared for the position can go on farther than they should. In this case, not knowing a specific language, if I were hiring for a position like a front-end engineer, I would have a set of expectations that JavaScript, some level of familiarity with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, just because that's really, what the job is for. Otherwise, though, really, JavaScript is very similar in some ways to C, and then C is kind of similar to name any other language. Python, Ruby has similar syntax structures, things to like that. It's always better to say that you don't know something, and to own up to that and say, I'm willing to learn. But you can also, the fact that you did it in a different language is a good idea, because it's a good chance that they're really just trying to judge your ability to understand the problem and to think about the problem, and a programming language is kind of agnostic of that. That's Yeti97 that asked that question. If you are on the Twitch page, if you're on my stream, there should be a chat over to the right. If there's not, I think there's like a little icon here. I'll show you my Twitch stream real quick. There's this little icon here. So if you're viewing the screen, you can click this little button and it will pull the chat up. So if you want to ask more questions there, feel free. And for the people who are just joining us, I see that some people just joined the chat. If you have any questions as we go, be sure to just ask them whenever. And I am currently kind of working on this page here. Yeti, I hope that answers your question. If not, please let me know. Or if you have another follow-up question, please let me know. So yeah, we are working on the website. Ooh, shoot. Making my whole desk shake. We are working on the website for the this live stream. And in just a minute, I will also be going back to another question that I had on Twitter that I think would be good to cover on this chat as well. Alright, so that's starting to come together, I think. It's a little wider than I want it to be. Actually, why don't we just do this? I don't know why glitch keeps crashing on me here. Maybe I'll close some of these pages out. That's too bad, Yeti. Unfortunately, you know, there are not a ton of companies that are fantastic at hiring. But the good news is there are tons of companies out there that need interns, that need people to come work for them. And so if you just keep trying, you know, you'll eventually hit the point where you find one that will hire you, that fits what you need to know. And you can always learn new languages, so that's always a possibility. I'm just gonna keep doing all of this wrong. Man, I don't know what is up with glitch today. Just keeps crashing on me really bad. Alright, so there is a little bit of a live stream going. It's kind of cool. I need to figure out how to make it only show when we're live. That would be the best thing. Come on, glitch. Any questions, chat? It's pretty quiet today. The website for the colors. This is Adobe. It's just color.adobe.com. So I knew I wanted to use the kind of default web blue that links are. So then I grabbed a little bit of a darker color and went from there. Ooh, that's obnoxious. backwards. All right, let's pop over to one more of those questions. I haven't actually replied to this one yet, but I think that this is a really good question. So somebody reached out about a tweet that I made a while back, and just asked for some advice on React. So they say they saw a tweet saying that I could offer some help with React, so there they are asking for help. They currently have two problems. One is, that their requests for guidance that they wanted to ask. So, for their background, they are currently working in Vue, and they want to start exploring React as well. And they have some knowledge in React, but for their current work position, they generally do Vue, so they have no real-world experience with React, for which they need guidance. So here are their questions. So the first question is, how do you gain experience working with React so you can be prepared for a React job or building some React app on your own? Can you please share some small projects that you have built in order to gain experience, if they are on GitHub, so I can relate to some ideas and see your coding techniques and learn from them? And then 2, any personal tips or experiences you might want to share that might help me out when learning and improving my React skills. So I think these are both really good questions, and something that I found myself asking a lot as I was starting to get started on front end and JavaScript in general. I kind of fell into the React world kind of awkwardly from Angular, having started by teaching myself Angular 1, then learning that I really, really didn't like Angular 2, working in some apps with like Backbone, JS, and a couple other things. With Python backends and a bunch of other stuff. It was kind of weird. But I found myself kind of just in the React world in a job. And so I had done a little bit of work teaching myself React. But this is such a hard question because for every person who has an idea on how to learn React or Vue or Angular or any of the systems, somebody else has, 100 different answers. So for the first question, how do you gain experience working with React so you could be prepared for a React job or building some React app on your own? Just sit down and watch videos on it. Learn how people in the space are thinking. So look at people who are talking about this, who have ideas on things, and kind of learn from them and their videos. Not to be super self-promotional, but check out this live stream. We'll do React on here every now and then, especially if more people want it. And we can cover Vue and we can cover things like that. There are really great YouTube channels of people talking about getting started in software engineering and front-end engineering. But for the most part, don't worry too much about the technology itself. That learning can really come on the job as you get better and better at working with a tech stack that your company uses. You'll just get better at that. So, for example, my current job, we do use React, and we are a fully React shop. Our front end is written in React, while our back end is written in Rails. But we have written a bunch of custom components. We hardly ever use actual HTML components anymore. And so while it is React, it's our own little flavor of React because we've included all these mix-ins and different things. And anyone who came in would have to learn that anyway. So you can prepare yourself by learning the important things in React. Learn a little bit about lifecycle methods and which are a little different from Vue and other languages like Angular and things like that. So the lifecycle methods and the difference between components and pure components and just all the things like that. There's all the domain knowledge on React, which you can find if you just go to the React documentation online. There's all this information out there. And so you can go here, right? You can go to their docs, and you can. These are great. So JSX is a little weird, although if you're working with Vue, you've probably used it a little bit, or you've at least seen it. Learn how it kind of works, why it works the way it does. What happens, what does this element here, this H1, become in JavaScript? Click through all of the quick start stuff. Look into the state and life cycle. Really try to understand state. All of these things are really useful when you're thinking about things in a React way. Really, frameworks and languages and libraries are way less about the language themselves and way more about thinking about problems in the way that language tells you to. And so you are kind of restricting yourself in some ways on purpose to, give yourself a shared way of thinking about things. You restrict yourself a little bit and move forward from there, and build things in that restricted worldview. So yeah, roll through this stuff. Understand JavaScript. Get why certain things are performant in JavaScript and why, how that affects React and things like that. And there are great talks out there, like I said, and great things to understand about those parts. And then as far as like small projects go, this person asks, can you please share some small projects that you've built in order to gain experience in React, if they're on GitHub? I don't really have a lot of projects on GitHub. I start projects and then kill them immediately, mostly because I don't really have time anymore now that I'm out of college and don't have time for some of this stuff to really build things in my spare time. In my spare time, I'd much rather be, playing video games or doing something like that, and that's okay. Yeah, so, there are really, really good projects that you can find on GitHub, but that's just that one person's way of using the tool that they're working with, using React. So I would just say, come up with something that you want to build or don't, and just, read books or read blog posts or watch videos or something around the language, and then make the first time you write it the first time you get paid to write it. You shouldn't have to write code that you're not getting paid to write. And then the last little bit of their question were any personal tips or experiences you might want to share that might help me while out learning and improving my React skills. It's pretty much what I just talked about. Just find a community, find people you can talk to about this kind of stuff, learn why things are the way they are. If you have questions, post in the documentation, look in the FAQs. There are places out there. Ask people like me on Twitter. Look for people who are willing to help with this kind of stuff and just ask them questions as you go, and you'll learn more and more. But yeah, so that's kind of the answer to that question. Chat if you have more questions. I think we probably will have about 15 more minutes. I'm going to finish up that web page a little bit and go from there. But this was, I think, a pretty good little stream. Please ask any questions that you have. And I mentioned earlier, but I will mention again, we have a YouTube channel that will be linked on this page. So if you want to go to the glitch page that's linked below, curiousfoxglove.glitch.me. For now, I'll change the URL of that here in a bit. And click on YouTube. I will be posting all of these live streams on YouTube, so you can always come back and watch them again. And if I can get up to a good number of subscribers, I'm at 2 right now, so we're going really well there. But I just had a new one, so that's really cool. I can get a vanity URL that will make this look a little bit better, and we'll start posting. Right now I have this under was, but we'll start posting things under this new do while title. I don't know what else to call that really. And I want to try out a format of this that is kind of what I've just been doing this whole time here, answering questions with chat, building something, and answering questions that people ask on Twitter before or after, and kind of making this a collaborative, live podcasting with video kind of thing. I don't have a good name for what that would actually be, but that's kind of what I want to do with this. So again, if you have more questions, chat, we'll be on for maybe by 10-15 more minutes, feel free to ask, and we can go over whatever. While I'm waiting, I will be working on this just a little bit more. I need to get this button opening. I copied the wrong thing. There we go. So, yeah, we got this opening up. The only other thing I wanted to do, JavaScript, check if Twitch stream is live. Let's see what we can find. Cool. So it looks like maybe we can just do a Oh yeah, okay. Did this actually log anything anywhere? Doesn't look like it. It's 400s. I'm guessing that this is just something wrong with the API. Any last couple questions there, chat? All right, let's see. We are just going to use this code here because apparently this is a JSON P. It might also be that I don't have a client ID. Okay, let's see if I can get access to the Twitch API. Yeah, there we go. I can just try this out with jQuery, see if it works. This could be a weird JSON P kind of thing. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so it looks like we're still getting that 400. Which appears to be this undefined here. No, wait, no, this isn't it. No client ID specified. All right. So if we copy that and try out this, do they have documentation for this? Okay, so if I just do this with oh, there we go. All right, so we are currently streaming. So we will do open button dot text content equals not cool. So there we go. There's our Live Now button on the website. Display equals none. So then if it doesn't, if we're not live, that should just disappear. Cool. So there we go. We have a Live Now button. And from there, the only thing I need to do is think like a close button. I want to convert this to be not jQuery at some point, but for now, that's okay. And the close button will just be view oh, there it is. It just got moved over oddly. Okay, so we need to do Any last questions, chat? As soon as I finish this up, I think I'm going to call it a night. If not, thank you all for coming. Some really good questions on here tonight. We will be back next week, same time, same place. Actually, 6:15 next week. And that should be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this little bit right here. All right. So there is the homepage for Do While, the new name of this live cast. Very excited to keep going forward. If you haven't already, definitely follow me on Twitter. I post a lot on there. If you have questions, you can always send me DMs. Outside of that, feel free to follow me on Twitch, subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is now available. I'm going to go ahead and change this, actually. Here. I know I said I would be done, but we'll go ahead and name this Do While. And then we'll take dowhile.glitch.me. We'll see if we can get a hover domain for that real quick. Hover.com. We'll make it official. about do while stream? Is that is available? Move that off of there so don't all get to see my credit card info. All right, and let's see if we can add a record, CNAME, looks like we're using this fly.io. We're going to try that out. Well, that's obnoxious. All right, stream. I think we will call it there for the night. I will be trying to figure out the rest of this. But thank you so much for coming, everyone. I hope you have a good night. So, as always, follow me on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and let me know if you ever have any questions.